So, Mr. Chaitanya, could you please get started by introducing yourself, telling us a bit more about your work and your
Yes.
career
Okay.
so far?
So, sure. Hi. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Chaitanya Mungi. I did my PhD from IISER Pune, and this was actually an integrated PhD course. I did my master's as well as PhD together, and that was in the field called astrobiology. Okay, astrobiology is a very interesting field. It's basically a combination of astronomy and biology. So everything to do with life, how life probably originated on our planet. If it did not originate on our planet and originated somewhere else, how did it come to our planet? If you talk about origin of life, it becomes more like a chemistry than a biology type of venture. So what I did mostly in my lab was more chemistry than biology. All of this was about 7 years ago now. And after that, towards the end of my PhD, okay, I'll just put that plugin right here itself. I got to know Tarun because he was technically like my batchmate. He was doing BSMS at IISER Pune and I was doing integrated PhD. So we used to share coursework. We used to like hang out in the same classes and stuff like that. But after that, our paths diverged because I used to work more in lab and other places. I got to connect to him a few weeks ago when he had visited IISER, and then it sparked all this interest in common topics and common ideas. So, how am I relevant to you guys, or why am I talking to you folks? Is essentially after my PhD, I had this big question in my mind that what next? Okay, and just like for any stage of your career, let it be bachelor's, master's, whatever, you always have to have this question of what next, and the thoughts that are ingrained into us because of the way we observe things around us is that the obvious next path for me would have been a postdoctoral research type of position. But I then asked my question, okay, what am I going to do after the postdoc? Because the situations of higher education in India are not really that great. You don't have too many opportunities, even after you have done your multiple postdocs or other things. And fortunately enough, I was the first student in my lab. My research group, I was the first student working with my guide, because of which we had to set up the whole lab, buy instruments, write grants to buy those instruments, see how much struggle is there in getting a government grant for research, see the delay in how long it takes from like writing a grant to actually getting the money, and how it is rushed to finish it before the financial year and everything. So all of this put me off a bit from the classic research path which was there. And around the same time, we in IISER Pune had this center coming up, which is called Srimati Indrani Balan Science Activity Center. Now, what the Science Activity Center actually is that it was a outreach wing for IISER Pune, in which I was doing a bit of voluntary work initially when I was still finishing up my PhD, and towards the end of it, I joined it full time because there was a position that they could create because I wanted to be there. And this is almost somewhere around end of 2016 to early 2017 is when we started doing all of this stuff. And yeah, now funnily enough, it's been almost 7 years that we have been in that setup. We have a group of people, but even within there, my journey has been quite interesting. What I did is we started initially with a bit of teacher training type of programs, because IISER, despite being a research institute with a lot of facilities and other things, everyone thinks that places like those, I mean, if you are from different parts of country, you can look at any research organization which is close to you, say DRDOs, TIFRs, or NCBS, or any of them for the ones in southern part of the country. All of those are expected to work with bachelor's, master's, higher level students who are essentially are thought to be their main target audiences. But IISERs have realized this, at least IISER Pune has realized this a while ago, that in order to get good bachelor's, master's students, you have to excite them right from the school level. And that change has to happen from the teacher point of view as well, that a school teacher has to make students who are interested in science, who are passionate about science, who understand a bit of scientific philosophies and other things. So we started this teacher training type of activities almost immediately in 2017. And initially we didn't have a lot of funding or other things for it, so we used to do it on our own. But then we started getting a lot of attention from different corporates, and we started doing this as a corporate social responsibility, a CSR activity. And from there, we have been getting into the CSR space more and more. Right now, what we do is I head this project called STEM Ready, which is a STEM initiative kind of venture in which we work with three verticals. First is to work with schools that have a tinkering lab with them. This tinkering lab type of setup, I'm pretty sure a lot of you might be familiar with it. There's something called Atal Tinkering Lab, which had been given to a lot of schools. Some of you might be from those schools who maybe when you were studying didn't have a tinkering lab, but now if you go back and check with your schools, they might have gotten one, because all across the country, more than 12,000 such labs have been set up just by government Niti Aayog, essentially. Then there are also a lot of private players who are setting up robotics labs or tinkering labs into schools, and all of this is fine and dandy. But what ends up happening is the students get exposure to all of this because they are motivated, they are interested. A lot of times, engineering students or others get involved into this as trainers or master trainers or something, but teachers are always left out of this ecosystem. And especially what happened in last 3 4 years post COVID is that a lot of companies ran out of money because they couldn't sustain a staff for 2 years without them actually physically doing anything. So they had to lay off those staff, and now schools are left in a limbo where they have all these assets, electronics material in their school. The teachers are not trained. They have no idea of what to do with it because they never were exposed to this ecosystem. So we started doing these kinds of workshop with schools that have tinkering labs, and their teachers need training in using those resources, working with them. We also realized while talking to funding agencies that there are a lot of this government and government aided schools who will never probably get a tinkering lab because they don't have that enough space, or infrastructure is not there, their strength is not enough, all of those issues. So because of which we shifted this gear to also conducting workshops, STEM workshop, tinkering workshop for teachers who don't have a tinkering lab. And what we call that is a very low cost tinkering lab. So you can like let me know later if you guys are familiar with this person called Arvind Gupta. He is a Padma Shri awardee. He has done a lot of work in toys from trash type of idea. All of this work was done way back in 90s, by the way, and it's been almost like what 30 plus years. But because I mean, my take on that is because he called it toys, everyone thought it's a extracurricular activity or it's just supposed to be fun. But these are all very low cost toys that you can make like practically from whatever material is available to you. And you can learn a lot of science, you can learn a lot of math or STEM concepts using all of that. And we now started popularizing this once again with a tinkering point of view that you can develop your own low cost tinkering lab in your school. And we also proposed funding agency that we can set up such small tinkering labs if you have funds for it. So Tata Technologies is our current CSR partner with whom we have been doing this STEM Ready project for almost last 3 years. And we as in I again have a team of folks who work with me, and I'm heading the project. I'm the project coordinator for that. I do more administrative stuff than science. That is a sad reality of it, but it's also has been fun. Talking to corporates, getting their money, using them, and the timelines have been always very interesting because the for a typical corporate, their meetings happen somewhere around March or something, like their financial year ends at March. Then they'll have their annual general meetings. Then they will have their CSR decisions and all being taken. So right now we are in the phase of writing more projects so that we get more grants, and then we continue taken care of and other things. So as of now, I'm technically wearing multiple hats. I still am a scientist at heart because that's what I got trained as. But at the same time, I've been working with a lot of corporates, a lot of CSR type of activities. We have been doing a lot of CSR all across the country, actually. Few weeks ago, I was in Shillong trying to help institute there set up a small tinkering lab so that they can conduct similar kinds of sessions. A while ago, I was working on another project that was called IRISE. It is a multi-partner project in which Tata Technologies, British Council, American Society of Chemistry, ACS, all of them were involved. And that project also is a pan-India project where we conducted workshops in Bihar, we conducted a few in Karnataka, then Chhattisgarh. Now Maharashtra, almost all states, all districts within the states have been covered. So all of these projects have been happening simultaneously. But I would say what drove me into this particular area, or what drove me into this, is as a kid, I was very like fidgety, tinkery, that kind of nature. So I would open up my toys, see what is happening on the inside, probably get a few scoldings because you break things and you do all of that. But that kind of curiosity persisted for a long time. And even while doing my PhD, I realized that the skills that I had acquired about critical thinking, or about communicating your research to others, or in general, trying to break down complex concepts into simpler ones when you're talking to some individuals or others, these are the kind of skills that I saw getting utilized into a science outreach, science communication type of career. And a very personal experience in there is once my grandmom asked me, "What do you do in a lab?" And I mean, rest in peace, she's no more, but this was almost like almost half a decade ago now. And I had no way of explaining it to her what I exactly do in my science research. And obviously, she's my grandmom. I wanted to tell her as much as possible. So I started breaking it down into simpler and simpler and simpler versions of it, unless she actually understood. I mean, not for the sake of it that she was nodding her head or doing something. She actually understood what a glimpse of what I'm trying to do in my lab. And that gave me a slight boost of confidence, as well as the inclination that science communication is equally important. It's taxpayers' money that researchers and everyone is using. And so taxpayers should know what is happening in a science lab or what research actually is. It also does another thing, that it demystifies the image of scientists. Like if I ask you, imagine a scientist right now, you would probably think of Einstein or Newton or weird hair, fuzzy guys and all that. Yes, we have our Indian inspirations too, where we often think of Abdul Kalam or others, but then they are very grand, larger than life type of images. But I mean, scientist looks like you and I. Okay, I mean, that's what we try to tell students, that if you think of a scientist, they don't always need to look very different. They're probably looking as exactly same as your aunts or uncles or something. And those are the folks who are doing science in our country. So we also try to popularize the science that happens in IISER through various media platforms. We conduct a lot of videos. We do these type of online sessions with scientists where school students get to interact with scientists. COVID especially gave us a lot of boost in that frame, where every Sunday we used to do different kinds of session, either hands-on activity-based sessions or digital media type of sessions, where teachers have to now use things like Zoom or simulations or others. So we were doing a bit of digital teacher training during that part. I would say what my leadership experience comes into handy is I had never formally been trained into a leadership type of activity. I became a leader because of the necessity of projects and the kind of work we were doing. And right now, I got to know a lot about CSR, got to know a lot about fundraising, even generating utilization certificates and tracking projects financially and doing all of that, which is never my skill set, to be frank. But once thrown all of those responsibilities, we had to learn all of this, we had to do all of this. And now I have reached a stage where there is enough staff that can take care of these things. I'm more into writing new projects, getting grants, and doing these things. At the same time, I still go personally, conduct workshops, talk to teachers, talk to students. And there, a fun experience I would like to share is that we still are in a country where if you have a head full of gray hairs, people will listen to whatever you're gonna say. But if you look very young or something, they don't tend to take you seriously initially. But the moment you prove that you are actually intelligent, you are actually know what you're going to talk about, you are giving them resources that they can use on their own, that is where the mutual respect builds up. I have my staff who is even younger than me in a lot of senses, and they also experience the same, that once you are younger and you are teaching teachers, or you're doing this teacher type of training type of things, you are talking to people who have more years of experience than your age in some sense. And there you have to be mindful, you have to be respectful. Yes, you have to make them believe that there can be scientific misconceptions that you have been teaching for so many years, and it is okay to first of all admit that you probably were wrong, because we live in a country where Guru Devo Bhava is a idea, right? You think your teacher is as close to God as possible, but then teachers have also started realizing this, that that is not the case. Students have more means of getting information now. There is ChatGPT, there is others, where students will come better prepared in some sense sessions than a teacher, and they realize the requirements of being up to date. So last workshop that we did was in Satara. I mean, literally, I was there till yesterday, and this was in Satara with the institute, which is close to more than 100 years old at this point. And even there, संस्थापक बोलते हैं उसको, basically their director level person had the courage to say that to teachers, that listen, you might be very experienced and you had a lot of these things, but if these guys are going to give you resources like AI or ChatGPT or something, just learn them, teach it to your fellow teachers, and write a report to me saying what you actually learned. So these kinds of carrots and sticks both are required in setups that we work with. But more or less, it has been a fun experience. I would say one tends to grow into a leadership role because three things happened to me. One is that I had this early realization that what do I want to do and what do I not want to do. It's equally important to have that negative selection, that this is not something I want to continue with. And then you jump into a new pool or a new ocean where you just learn to swim. The second thing that happened to me is that I was in a setup where not only my expertise were valued, but they allowed me to take certain risks in a more safe zone, because we didn't have a lot of funding, we didn't have a lot of means of getting this teacher trainings going, but we used to do it with whatever we have. And that builds the initial momentum where you know that what you are doing is worth the efforts. A lot of people appreciate what you are doing, which builds into a positive feedback loop. And finally, I would say that learning how to learn something is the biggest skill that I have acquired over time. If you know how to learn something, then nowadays I've been reading a lot of finance books and learning about, say, hedge fund managers and this, that. So this is obviously not my domain. I was never formally trained into it. I never wanted to do this. But just because something piques your interest and you start reading about it, it helps you with acquiring those kinds of skills. So one thing, I mean, as a closing thought, I would obviously say that learning how to learn something is also a skill. And as far as one acquires that, all of us will technically go a long way. I think I spoke more than what I was expecting even myself, but I have a bad reputation for talking a lot. So yeah, I mean, when you are in communication or when you are in those fields, you do have to talk a lot, right? So I would stop here for now. If you have any comments, questions, I'll take it from there. Otherwise, we can obviously talk about some other hats that I've been wearing over time as well.
Yeah, I think we do have a lot of questions. So I'll start with the first question. You mentioned about not having enough funds initially. So how
Yes.
do you approach the potential stakeholders or donors, especially when they don't understand the full context of your work?
Okay. So what happened is initially when we started doing these teacher training type of workshops, especially, we did get a lot of media attention because it was something very novel that we were trying to do. So there were some newspaper articles or there were some small snippets because, say, for example, if you are coming from a research institute which is known only for research and they suddenly start conducting teacher training workshop, which is a very new domain for everyone, then we got a bit of media attention which worked in our favor. Apart from that, when we approach the corporates, we never told them directly what is it that we want to do or how do we want to go about it or something. It was a very simple thing that we did, that during one of their annual general meetings that were happening, we asked them that would you be open to having a small session for your families or for extended families of your corporate partners, where we can do a small hands-on activity session with those parents and teachers. Because one thing that one would understand over time is activity-based learning, inquiry-based learning. All of these are very cool concepts, but none of us have experienced this because our teachers don't know how to do it. We didn't know, we were not taught this way. So this feeling that, oh, I wish I was taught this way, maybe I was in science or maybe I was doing something else by now. This is a very universal feeling. So the moment I mean, unfortunately, I'm at home and I may not have a lot of fidgets or gadgets around me right now, but if I can show you some of these activities that we tend to work on, those kinds of activities are catchy on their own. Like if you just make a very complex scientific concept very accessible using simple materials like straws or sticks and other things, it catches their attention immediately. And then the selling point that we had for them is that these activities are not going to cost a lot. So they are very scalable, they're very affordable, and we can achieve like a number of students close to 1,000 or 2,000 students within 6 months window if the proper funding is acquired. And this helped us in getting that initial fund because they could see three things in it. One is the impact that we will have, because that was very evident from a bit of media coverage or a bit of mouth to mouth publicity. The second is we could convince them that this is low cost but scalable, so that it doesn't look like that it's a one time thing and it's not going to happen. Or if we start working with, say, 200 teachers, it's going to remain as 200 teachers for the whole of it. No, it could be scaled. So corporates are always interested in scale or those type of words, right? So that we could convince them. And the third thing is a bit of personalized touch to things. If you see, I mean, no offense to any ed tech or any type of thing, but unless there is a human touch to things, things don't seem to be very connective, very together. Those type of feelings are missed out. So we purposely swayed away from doing things virtually or digitally or something. There was always a hands-on component. There is always a physical component where we would interact with teachers, we would interact with our staff, or I mean, basically our staff or our trainers who are there would also interact with corporates in person, so that they get to see what is the activity. Invite them to your place, get them to see what you have been doing so far, and that picks up their attention like nothing else so far.
Right. So can we say that like initially, even though it started small, but you had a strong vision and the plan that you made initially that was strong and you know that it can build from there. So the foundation was extremely strong.
Yeah, that is a fair way to summarize this. But apart from this, what I would also say is that it's not just the vision, because you could have multiple types of vision and it could be overarching or something. What we did for sure is we had three strategies: that there has to be a short-term goal which is achievable almost within like a 3 month or a 6 month window. Because what that does is that it gives a positive outcome very early on. The second is we had a bit of medium term goals where we could convince corporates that, listen, if we achieve these short term goals, you have to support us for this medium term goals or something. And while all of this was happening, a medium term goal is something like a 2 year or a 3 year plan of sorts. Short term was, say, 6 months. And in a very long run, now that I've been in this setup for almost 7 years now we have this long term visions of 10 years or 5 years or something that we know are achievable given our current funding, given our current understanding. So never sway away from a vision or a long term goal, but you need to supplement it with medium term or short term goals which give you gratification, which gives you results, which prove that you are actually going towards that long term goal. Because otherwise what tends to happen in a lot of organizations is they will propose something with a very grand vision and something, and obviously a lot of corporates do not give money for a 10-year project or a 5-year project or something. They will give you money for like a 1 year project initially. It is often called a pilot project for all practical purposes. But their immediate expectation is if the pilot works really well, you should be able to scale it in terms of numbers. You should be able to scale it in terms of time or impact and other things. So now you need to have that medium term plan ready, that in case the first year goes really well and you do really well, how are you going to extend it for another 3 years or 5 years or something? Anyone else? And I'm pretty sure this doesn't have to do with education, or it doesn't have to do with the kind of things that we spoke about. In generally, also, if you want to know a bit more about what we are exactly doing and how did we go about it, I can tell you about that as well later. But I mean,
So
I'll let you guys talk first.
you mentioned that you've been, heading a lot of different projects, acting as the
Hmm.
project coordinator for multiple activities. So, what
Yes.
would be some pieces of advice that you would want to share when it comes to handling so many different projects at the same time effectively, especially
Okay.
when they're done on
So
a large scale pan India?
Okay, so first thing that has tremendously helped me is to have the right kind of team. Okay, there is no second this thing where, because if you spend about 6 months or 3 months training somebody and you can't even get that output from them for another year or 2 year, it is worthless. We have been in those setups where we spent close to 6 months training some of the fresh graduates or fresh undergraduates and doing these type of things for long, and then they immediately leave for either a Ph.D or something, or they leave for some other kind of opportunities that they find. So one thing is to build a team which will stay with you at least till the end of the project. That is something which is very challenging, and we still find it a bit challenging, but we have managed to achieve that to a good extent. This is more interpersonal skill than actual skill. You need to work on need to basis. You need to figure out how to keep your team happy. You need to figure out whether they are getting to do what they really want to do and things like that. So give them the environment or a niche in which they can do what they really like, maybe at least 25-30% of the time. This is completely exploratory type of thing where if they want to come up with a new experiment, they want to try a new session, do whatever, I make sure that they at least have that 1/3 window in which they get to do something very exploratory. Because once you give them that freedom, that this space values my expertise, this space values my exploration capacities, then they are okay doing 60% of the work which is being handed over to them. For most setups, nobody likes to do what they are just being told, but they have to do what is being told. So team management in terms of balancing their interests to our outcomes is something that I've been doing for a while, and that has worked because the staff retention is being really great. The second thing I would say when doing multiple projects is you need to really stick to your timelines. Like there is nothing that has worked for us so much, because if you don't stick to your timelines towards the end of the year, especially now that we are doing CSR projects a lot, they expect you to finish all the funds which are given to you exactly on 31st March. So no matter if you are doing like a 10 lakh worth project or 1 crore worth project, the project I am handling right now, like, I mean, I'm not bragging about it, but that's my personal responsibility. So I feel obligated to share it. We acquired a funding of 85 lakhs for one of the projects that I'm coordinating right now. And though the timelines of that should have been that if the project was sanctioned in April, the money should come within like April or May or something. And then we have this nice 10-month window in which we can spend this money. Didn't happen at all. The money came way after August or something. And then this year was an election year, because of which a lot of teachers were busy. Government has made a lot of mandate about where you purchase things from, how the tendering procedure has to happen and everything, because of which a lot of restraints were got put on us in this year. And now by hook or crook, before it is 31st March, I have to finish this 85 lakh legally, right? I mean, that legally comes obviously, but it is very difficult to spend money legally when everything has to be followed and things have to go, right? So all of this basically taught us that you need to plan activities well, but you need to have contingencies where things don't go the way you want. You need to have things planned in such a way that if your project timelines don't work the way you have made right at the get-go of the year, you have to change these ideas so that if everything squeezes into 6 months or everything squeezes into 10 months, which you expected for a year, how would you go about it? So having these kinds of contingencies is something for all projects. Like, this is the third year that we have been working in the same funding agency. And this is the second year they have done the same thing to us, that they say that money will be released at X date and it doesn't happen. So maybe in last 3 years, we have gotten used to this idea that, okay, they will, at least the corporates are nice in that sense that they will give the money that they have promised. Unlike government, where they will initially promise, say, maybe 1 crore or something, and by the end of it, they are just going to give you like 35 lakh or 40 lakh. And then it is already March, so they're like, oh, we'll do this next year, and then it gets carried forward, and probably money never comes. So those issues also we have faced. I will not name the government agencies. I'll not do that because that's not the platform for this. But this has happened in past as well, where they will promise a certain amount and it doesn't get delivered. So that is okay. They have their own agendas and other things at place. But at least with corporates, if it is say 85 lakhs, they are going to get 85 lakhs, but the timelines are very squeezed. So that is a challenge that for any project, especially if you become like a project manager or a project coordinator and other type of things, you need to have this idea that you will have your timeline of say 1 year. Then you have to make a parallel timeline, which if the whole thing gets squeezed into 8 months, how will you go about it? And then you, as a worst case scenario, you also need to figure out activities which you have to do because they are your deliverables, they are the inputs that you have promised. But you need to have parallel activities planned because now the money that you couldn't spend in first 2 months or 3 months, you have to spend extra money in that last remaining 3 months or 4 months. So how the activities get planned, how things work out is something that one would achieve. So to summarize, get a good team. Once you get a good team, retain that team by good means, not just by giving them financial incentives. Third thing is have projects which are planned in such a way that if something goes wrong, you need more contingencies. And timelines of the project is something that you have to really be on top of it. Because even though something goes beyond your hand, say for example, for this particular year, there has been 2 elections in this just year for Maharashtra at least. And that is ridiculous because every election puts Achar Sanhita and other things in place because of which teachers get busy. So we couldn't do workshop with teachers because they are busy with the election and do all of that. So when I say contingency, I just don't mean like contingency in terms of finances or contingency in terms of activities. Contingency in terms of what is the world gonna do to you in that particular year, which is way beyond your control in some sense. Now, yeah, there are two questions in chat. I'd like to just quickly address them if that's okay. Okay, the first one is what has to happen for you to know that this person is right fit for the team, and can you elaborate on why spending money legally is difficult? Okay, both things I'll address. Second one I think is more interesting and a bit gray, but I will obviously address it. The first one is more like okay, first of all, what we do at the start of the project is we define roles and responsibilities for each staff that is gonna get hired. And this is a standard practice we have been following for almost 5 years now, because it helps you even right at the start of the project. When you are conceptualizing a project, when you are writing how much manpower you want and everything, you define the roles and responsibilities of that position, not the individual. Because you don't know who's the individual who's going to appear for interviews, what are the kind of skill set you are going to get from there, but you at least know what do you want. Say, for example, in current projects that I'm doing, if there is a position called multi-skill assistant, they are supposed to be more like an administrative assistant type of person who may not be directly talking to funding agencies, doing all of that, but they should know admin, they should know accounts, They should know how to track a bit of the project progress and everything. Cut to, I have another kind of positions which are called senior project associates or project associates, which are more of a technical person in terms of sciences or in terms of knowledge. So these folks are supposed to develop content, these folks are supposed to conduct workshops. They may not have any clue of project management, or they may be like science graduates who have never done accounting, and that is perfectly fine because their roles are completely separate. So initially at the start of the project, you have to define the kind of staff you want, define the kind of roles and responsibilities they will have, define hopefully the kind of skill set they will have in the beginning itself. And then once all of this is figured out, then go for the hiring process. It is a hit or miss. I mean, this has helped us that if your timeline gets squeezed and money comes in late, you can only do interviews and other things once the money is there. So what we do is, if I need 4 staff, I take interview for 6 positions, and I keep those 6 people for slightly at least first 3 months or 4 months on probation, so that they will perform to their fullest. They will show all of their skill set that they have. If some of them don't live up to the potential that we expect them to do, we obviously have the chance to not continue them after their probationary windows. But for most parts, we then try to figure out that, okay, if instead of having, say, this is the problem now, if you have funding for 4 staff, but you already have hired 6 staff, you need to just, what you need to do is, if all 6 of them turn out to be good, you just need to raise additional funds so that you don't need to let go of those 2 good staff. It's not compulsory, that it's not like this Japanese prisoner type of thing that a new batch comes, you will shoot somebody so that everyone's scared and they will obey the prison rules and everything. It's not like that. We compulsorily do not fire individuals just to make an example or something. We never do that. We try to keep them in the system as far as possible because they are being trained. We have spent time on them. The catch is, I think it hopefully answers it, but a thing that we have noticed is the kind of interview. I myself sit on interview panels for most parts. I ask them the kind of interview questions that I feel are making them ready for that position. And what we look for is not the knowledge, but the ability to acquire a certain skill. I won't even say a skill, because the kind of work we are doing right now is very variable. I myself have made videos, I have made scientific content, I have done YouTube live streamings, I have done project management, and this is such a variable skill that you can't train anyone right at the get-go. You have to find out what their interests are and then cultivate those interests in your setup so that they also feel like, okay, this setup is making me grow. And then they will stick with you for a long run. Now, okay, the question continues. So I'm going to ask that part first. So we sort by skills that we have in mind for the role, correct? And you also have to be ready for not getting those skills in the individual that you have hired. Why do I say that? Is because when we are doing hiring, we often get fresh science graduates, or we get people who have just finished with their masters or something. One of the most common questions that I've asked in countless interviews is, I'll give you a blank piece of paper and I'll ask you that, think of me as a 8th grader or a 9th grader student who may or may not be interested in science. So it's up to you. I'm just a school kid at this point. And you have to use this pen and paper, draw a diagram, write your words, do whatever. But explain me that one scientific concept that you have understood really well. I hope the question's through, right? Long story short, I give them a paper. I tell them I'm a school kid. If you have understood some concept really well from your school time, try to explain it to me. And I give them a pen and paper if they ask for it, or if they want some tools which are lying around, we give them anything that is required. Now, what this really does is that 3 things. One is, it takes away the onus from us that whatever content they know, they should know it. We don't tell them, okay, explain me this concept in physics or this concept in chemistry, because that is very exam like. What if I didn't understand that one concept and you are asking me about that? Then my skills are slightly not tested for the best. So the onus is on them. You choose what you know really well. The second thing is, test their way of thinking and communication. Because if I say that I have understood circular motion as a concept really well, but I can't explain it to you, I know it well, but I can't explain it to you, that means that 2 things. One is that my communication is bad and I don't really know the concept as well as I think I know. So in science communication, both things are important. So the third thing that also does is that if I say that I'm a school student, or I know I can still understand heavy words that they're gonna use, or the concepts that will go beyond what their current expectations are, but they need to tone it down. I mean, the moment I start talking to you guys as say school students, I can't suddenly use heavy words and concepts which are beyond a school's child's understanding. So that is something that we also look for. Who would say no to a diamond in the rough? I didn't get that part, but you can rephrase the question hopefully. The thing I would really want to elaborate on why spending money legally is difficult is because, say, when I say spending money legally, what do I mean by that? Is government has a lot of rules on how money can be spent when it's in a government institute. You have to have this cutoffs of how money gets spent. Say, for example, I need to buy something worth 5,000 rupees. I can just go in a market, buy it, get a bill for it, and it will be settled because that is considered a newer limit for petty cash. Petty cash essentially means that you can just spend it however you want. It's too low a expense to be problem. Anywhere between 5,000 to 50,000, we have to go to this portal called Government E-Marketplace. This is a portal called GEM or Government E-Marketplace. And anything between 5,000 to 50,000, we are expected to buy it from there so that there is a fair chance for all vendors to do this. Basically, think of it as like government run Flipkart or Amazon or sort, but worse, like terrible. Third thing is if you are anywhere between 50,000 to now that limit has been increased to 10 lakhs. Earlier it used to be 5 lakhs. Anywhere between 50,000 to 10 lakhs, you have to get this 3 members committee approval. First of all, you have to buy it through GEM if it is available on GEM. But if it is not available on GEM, you have to do like a 6 week procedure at the back end to get every approval to perform this purchase committee who will decide whether everything's been done fair. You have to get multiple quotations from multiple vendors and then all of these purchases will go through. So yes, it's a big chunk of money, but it takes longer time to spend it. And finally, if anything is beyond 10 lakh that you are going to purchase, you need to put out an open tender. It goes open. It can be either a domestic tender or an international tender as well. And there is a tendering procedure. Basically, you have to make like anywhere between 30 to 40 page document highlighting everything that you want to purchase in that one product, which just costs like say 10 lakh 50,000. If it crosses 10 lakh limit, it has to be an open tender. Everything goes into open tender, and a typical tendering process takes anywhere between 2 months to 6 months to finish up everything. Now think of it, right? I want to spend my money before 31st March. And if thing that I want to buy, let's say I want to buy a laser cutter or I want to buy some 3D printer or something, and it costs just beyond that particular threshold that was put to me, the purchase procedures drastically change. Because of which, being in a government setup, we have to follow all of these rules and then only purchase it. Otherwise, a huge audit is on our way. And I mean, again, touch wood, I have no wood around me, but touch wood that we haven't been subjected to any audit so far. And if there is an audit, we will, I mean, because we are the signatories, me, my principal investigator, who is typically a faculty or something, we will be called to an audit and we have to justify why that purchase was made a certain way. Uh, if the money is large enough beyond 10 lakh or something, it invites potential corruption charges and other things. So that's why when I say that money has to be spent legally, this is what I mean by following all the procedures, following all the things, making sure that nothing will become like an auditory suspicion or something. Okay. Nitin, I really want you to slightly clarify what do you mean by who would say no to a diamond in the rough? I didn't get
Oh,
it. I'm
that
so sorry.
oh, that was just me saying, like you told me, right? Like, let's say you have hired 6 people and all 6 of them are good. You can't say no to the other two. So that's what I meant by saying you
Yeah.
can't say.
That I agree, but see, this is where the challenge is because yes, I unfortunately have been in that situation as well, in which we wrote a project. The funding agency was on board for a year's time or something, but because of their internal transfers and conflicts and other things, they just did not continue the project further. And this was smacked somewhere around March or April or something, in which we had no funds. So, I mean, you can't ask somebody to work for you when you're not paying them, when you have been paying them for a year. See, if I start with a person saying that, see, you will not get a salary for 3 months, but you'll have to work for me. It will be a learning experience. It will be something. Then they are already aware that there is going to be a window in which my experience will build up, my skills will build up, but I may not get paid. They're already aware of it. But then if I hire somebody, I've been paying them like a 25 or 30,000 salary per month for a year. And then suddenly the funding runs dry and I tell them that, okay, listen, can you still work with me for another 3 months? I may not be able to give you a salary. And hopefully after 3 months, I'll be able to give you a salary again. Very few people continue doing so. Because see, I mean, if I ask all of you very honestly, what is one of the most addictive things in the world? It is not money, it is salary. Right? Think of a concept of salary. What is a salary? Every end of the month or start of the month, however you look at it, if you are so sure that every start of the month or end of the month you are going to get fixed amount, you make your lifestyle according to it. You plan your life as per that is going to happen for the all time. You manage your expenses in such a way that, okay, if I mean, by a lot of people live like that, which I don't completely agree to, but I mean, their account balance starts up at the start of the month, starts to go low towards the end of the month, then shoots up again in the next month. And basically what they have done is they have managed their expenses, they have managed their lifestyle as if they are going to keep getting money every month. Correct? That is a form of addiction in some sense, isn't it? Because you know that every end of the month you will get that money and it will allow you to sustain for the next one or allow the next one. So now what we have started to do is we have proposed this to IISER that we will make a small corporate entity within IISER Pune who's not bound by all of this corporate rules or government rules or something. Basically like a small private limited type of company where it is not going to be like a shell company or something. It will actually be a company, and for that particular company we can outsource the hiring of the individuals. Right now what is happening is when we write a project and when we do everything, the money goes into IISER Pune's account, and because it's a government account, everything is bound by their money guidelines, everything is bound by them. So what we want to do is that instead of them directly hiring individuals, when I say them, it is still me, but I'm playing a role on behalf of IISER Pune, right? So instead of government directly hiring an employee, government outsource hiring to a company and the company hires employees. Because now what happens is that yes, there is going to be probably like a 18% GST or something, because now it is offered as a service instead of a employee being hired. But what that will at least allow us to do is avoid this windows in between where there is no funding and the staff is at a loss or something like that. Question which says there is, what is the other alternative to this salary thing? Are you talking about we giving salaries or salary as a concept?
Yeah, salary as an addiction.
Well, okay. I mean, let me put it this way, because this is a practice that I've been doing for myself as well. Uh, One thing is make your own emergency fund the moment you get salary. Okay. Are you guys aware of this financial idea of having an emergency fund? Right. I see a few nodding yes, few puzzled. What is an emergency fund is basically, if say my salary right now is 1 lakh per month, just to make calculations easy, right? If my salary is 1 lakh per month and my expenses are somewhere like 60,000 per month or something, then I know that for surviving next 6 months, I need 3,60,000 in my account. And if I aggressively save my money or I aggressively manage my money really well, then in another 9 months, by saving 40,000 every month, I should be able to save 3,60,000 in my account. And obviously, I'm not dumb enough to put it in a savings account or something. I will diversify my investments. I'll put some in a liquid fund. I'll put some in a debt fund. I will put some in a long-term investment or something, but they should be liquidable at a moment's notice. Because what is the purpose of an emergency fund exactly is, imagine tomorrow I have a medical emergency, or tomorrow I have a family emergency, or tomorrow I lose a job and I need to still sustain my same lifestyle for another 6 months at least. I should be able to have that amount of fund kept aside. And this is a concept of a emergency fund or a like a piggy bank that you have with you for the long run, so that in case you lose your job or in case somebody fires you for unfathomable reasons, you still can sustain that same lifestyle for another 6 months. And I'm pretty sure all of us are at this point capable enough that you will find some job or the other in the next 6 month window without letting go of your current lifestyle. Correct. Now, you would say that, okay, if what if you can't make that for 6 months? If your window is shorter, then your efforts have to be higher. What do I simply mean by that is, say I have 30,000 as my starting salary, then my expenses are also hopefully going to be smaller, because I can't spend 60,000 on a 30,000 salary. If I'm doing that, I'm really dumb. Okay. Uh, People in the 30s should not be having a lot of debt unless you have bought a house and did a EMI stuff and all that. But people in their 30s should not be having cell phone, iPhone related debts, car related debts, nothing like that. We live in a world where Ubers are more common now. So you can do a Uber, you can do a Ola or something. You don't need your car right away, right? Things like that. So be frugal at the initial part of your career so that you can make your own moat. It's also called moat, right? MOAT. You can make your own moat so that if something crashes, you still have things well planned for you. The other thing, as a real alternative to salary, is to start investing into things which will generate income for you. It's basically called income generating assets, right? Now it is very difficult. I know the suggestions I'm going to you right now is not a immediate suggestion. It is not a short term goal. It should be your own 5-year goal or something that you will eventually find that one asset which will generate some income. I mean, I'm talking to a crowd which I think should know what all I'm talking about. But if you guys haven't read Robert Kiyosaki, please do that. Okay, any book of are you guys familiar with Robert Kiyosaki? Yes, no?
He wrote
Okay.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, right?
Okay, so once you get into Rich Dad Poor Dad, jump into few more that he has done. Okay, there is something called Guide to Investments. It's another book. It goes slightly more into details of that quadrant idea of the 4 quadrants, and then eventually for each kind of quadrant, what are the further things that you should be doing with it. Especially Robert Kiyosaki's wife also has another book which is about women doing their own finances, which is separate from how men typically tend to do their finances, and one can read about that as well. Rich Dad Poor Dad is probably your gateway drug into getting into finances in some sense, right? If you start reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, you realize that being an employee for your life is not going to help you. You need to do something else with your life so that you will get into a different zone. And eventually, if you do get interested into all of this, another book I would really recommend is a book called Principles by Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio is a hedge fund manager for Bridgewaters. He spent close to what 60 years or so doing all sorts of finance stuff. And eventually now he has moved into more of a mentorship role because in his own words, he's now old enough that he doesn't need to make money for himself. So he's gonna give away all of his knowledge for free. If you want a very quick I mean, a starting introduction to what economics, anyways, is just go to Google, search for Ray Dalio and economics. You will find this 30-minute video about economics, which is all animated, and it clarifies almost all of your concepts of what is a short-term debt cycle, what is a long-term debt cycle, what does debt actually mean. Like, if I go to a bar and I have a glass of beer or something, and I tell the bartender, "Oh, sorry, I don't have money today. Can I pay you tomorrow?" Even that simple sentence creates a debt, right? Because what I did is I availed a service for which I did not have money today, and tomorrow I need to pay for it so that if my income tomorrow is whatever it is, I need to make double of that. Because when I say take credit card debt, when I take any kind of debt, I'm procuring a asset, I'm procuring a object for which I did not have money, which means my future incomes have to be reduced because they are gonna feed into this. My EMI essentially is what? My income going down over time. Correct. So all of these ideas get clarified in that one video. I'll type it in chat later or side by side when we are talking. I can find out that link and share it. The other thing is, in general, once you go to that YouTube channel of Ray Dalio and you find out some of his videos, he has a beautiful set of videos which is called Principles for Success. Okay, it's a 30-minute video series which is split into about 6 of them, and beautiful set of ideas, like for example how your success typically looks like, how not having long-term goals affects your success, how having right kind of peers around you affects your success. So a lot of things that we spoke a while ago. I think my current role, my current philosophy is also shaped by reading or looking at some of these ideas. So obviously you are free to read more with these people's ideas in mind. I mean, yeah, that's a very different topic altogether. That how one would go about acquiring new knowledge and doing these things. Maybe I don't know. I really don't know how much time has been allocated to this, and I'm pretty sure it's a Saturday night, so you guys would have other plans. But if I may, I will just share these links with one of you who has been coordinating with me, and you can learn more. You can read more about it because there are these couple of YouTube channels that I have found as like a hidden gem type of thing, and they do really good amount of work in terms of getting your principles in right places so that you make a structure for things. Okay, that link looks correct. I just clicked on it at side by side, and yeah, that's Ray Dalio. So the video that you see right now, which is posted on the link, is the economics video, how economic machine works. And if you go on his website itself, you will find this thing called Principles for Success by Ray Dalio. He also made this beautiful video recently, which is about changing world order, and it is probably very relevant in current times when BRICS has been making our own alliances, and you guys are familiar with what I'm talking, right? I'm fine. So basically, we being in India, it is very relevant to look at how the world order might eventually change. And I think it was just today morning or yesterday night that Trump has been thinking about proposing sanctions on all BRICS, which is one of the most stupid
100% tariffs.
Yeah, but then think about it, right? 60% of world population, 40% of world economics is what is BRICS in general. And especially given that countries like Saudi Arabia and other oil giants are also trying to join BRICS, putting tariffs being as US on such countries is clearly a stupid move. But hey, they do what they want to do, right? So okay, I mean we will obviously digress. So I see finance is something that I do or read or look at as more like a hobby. I obviously need to sort out my own personal finances, so that is more serious stuff. But let's not talk about finance right now because I told you initially, right? I have a bad rap for talking a lot, which you would see that in last 1 hour I've been talking more. So I'm really gonna give you guys a chance to talk.
Right.
And
So,
also, just excuse me for a second. I'm gonna get my charger. My laptop's gonna run out of battery on this, but I'm listening. So continue.
sure, sure. So typically we do the guest speaker sessions from 7 to 8 p.m. But in case anyone has any more questions, feel free to ask. I think we can do maybe one question more. Otherwise, we can, move to reflections so that there is like a small gap before the Socratic dialogue begins.
Yes,
Right.
my question would be, how do you go about acquiring new knowledge? Like, what is your
Okay, I get what you are getting at. So three things again. Okay, I love number three. You would have realized that by now. Okay, three things again. One is do not do not underestimate yourself. Okay, I mean this is very crucial because I've seen people with a large amount of potential and they would just be like, oh, I was never good at math or I never understood finances or something. No, you all of us are equally capable of learning everything, maybe apart from something like music or something, because I personally consider myself musically deaf. I can't make out difference between sa and another sa that comes seven down the line. But unless it is like a music or a God gifted type of skill, anything which is knowledge dependent, we all are equally capable of learning it. So never underestimate yourself. That's first. The second is try to find out right sources for information. And now with ChatGPT or with other AIs and YouTube being so rampant and everything, it is much more easier. Like when I started doing these kinds of things where I'm learning about something which is not my niche, not my topic, I'm talking about something like 2011 or something when all of this resources were never there. So my go-to resource usually used to be either books or YouTube. And two problems with both of those approaches. One is YouTube puts you into a positive feedback loop that you tend to watch the kind of things you are searching. So I don't know, there is this person called Smarter Every Day, if you are familiar with him. He has a video about just reshaping your whole YouTube history. And best thing to do is just make, I mean, okay, off the record, you can make a lot of YouTube accounts on your own. All of us at least have 2 3 Gmail accounts. You keep different YouTube accounts for different purposes that you are interested in. So I have a separate Gmail account on which the whole YouTube is about finance. So I get more ideas about finance from that YouTube channel. I have another YouTube. I don't have a channel. Like I just have an account. I just have a YouTube account. But that YouTube account is more driven by finance and that kind of discussion. I have another thread in which everything is about geopolitics. Everything is about other countries. What are they doing? Blah, blah, blah. Then a third is all about science. I'm pretty sure if I throw out some names out there, you might be aware of this. Kurzgesagt, PBS, Eons, all of these, they are brilliant channels. And how did I find them? I just randomly chanced upon them at one point and I realized, oh, this is a gold mine of stuff. So you need to create your own YouTube algorithms or YouTube trails where things get recommended what you really want to learn. And lastly, your life experiences will teach you the thing that you need the most. Like I started learning about finances because again, touchwood, I never ran into a situation where I have a lot of debt or I have a lot of this thing. So I realized that finances is important. I need to learn it, though I was a science student. Similarly, if the other way around, if you are a commerce student or if you are an art student or something, you need to learn a bit of science because the diet that you eat, the chemicals you are being exposed to, the pollution that you are being exposed to, all of this is science. And again, God forbid, if you are ever in a hospital and they throw medical terms at you that, oh, this has happened to you, you should at least have that basic understanding of what is being said. Okay, cervical cancer, it should at least ring some bells that, okay, where is this cancer exactly to, right? So you shouldn't be scared when somebody throws medical terms at you or financial terms at you or something like that. So that comes from this idea that your life experiences will teach you what knowledge you really need. But it is not just about you, it is also about people around you. If your parents are suffering from a medical condition or something, you are now responsible to read about it, give them some ideas. If say somebody is suffering from, say, high blood pressure, low blood pressure, they should know what stress is, how to manage stress, do all of that. But if they can't do it for themselves, being older or being something, then it's your onus, it's your responsibility to learn for them and then communicate to them. So it is a very personal thing that I really look at it this way, that what motivates you to learn more is experiences of yourself and people around you motivates you to learn. And then remember the first two things that I said. Remember that even if say you are a science student and you suddenly have to figure out how say a home loan's EMI has to be calculated, and is it really worth getting this much amount of loan sanctioned or that much amount of loan, you have to do that, right? So you are capable, you will find resources for it, but that life experience will motivate you to learn something.
All right.
Okay?
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Chaitanya, again. And I would like us to pause the questions here. And I would request everyone to share their reflections. Let's try to go with at least three reflections. Who would like to go first? If we're waiting for each other to go first, I would recommend let's not do that because the other person is waiting for you to go first instead. So
Hey,
again,
I
who
mean, this
would
is a
like to?
classic situation that we run into also when we do teacher training workshops.
Yeah.
There are two ways to go about it. I'll either start alphabetically or I'm just gonna randomly pick. Both are problems because I see both Archana and others getting very worried that, oh man, my name starts with E. Let's not do that. Okay. So don't disappear from the screen. That it's up to you. Okay. I mean, if you are okay writing it down, then you can write in chat as well. That's also better because that way it speeds up the process. But hey, I mean, whoever is the moderator, you choose. When people don't tend to respond very well, we just say alphabetically or preference wise. It's up to
I
you.
think we should
I
make
will.
this a culture. Then I think the guest speakers should get to choose any three people after the session to reflect.
Don't do this. See, I
Okay.
mean, as a cohort, you guys know each other better. So it's better that you guys choose than me choosing, obviously. But it's up to you.
Thank you so much for the initiative, Archana. Please go ahead.
Hi Chaitanya, it's actually really pleasureful to talk to you. It was like lot of information we got, and these are like learnings that we will not get in the schools or anywhere. These are practical learnings which you said to us out of your experience. We will not get these, what you say, pointers or the strategies that we can use for financial management or managing your team or hiring people. These are like, we can't get it, we will get it from experience, and your experience made our day and it was very insightful, and I'm thankful for that. And the main thing that I learned is like maintaining a team, like who will retain with us till the end of the project. We need to analyze people how they are, and we need to figure out, we should not waste our funds also, and we should not waste others time also, that their time is also valuable. So it should be a cut short time, like if you are eligible, stay here, if not, we can leave you set free. So there are many learnings I can go till the end, but I'll let others to reflect also. Thank you so
One
much for your
question.
time.
Thank you.
So, Archana, you just said that we choose the right team, the team that will help us in the long run. So, like, how will we know that this person will help us in the long run and this person will not? What has to happen for us to know that this person will and this person will not?
Because this answer I can take, like Chaitanya I also answered it, like we can figure out, we'll in the duration of training period or something, we'll analyze everyone's skill sets
and the question that are asked during interviews. It's like what their approach towards the work, or like whether they are capable enough. The three sets he said, like whether they are capable enough to explain whatever they understood. So, like complex science terms, can they explain it in a simpler form this to the school students
But
that
how
it
do
be
you
like
know
they
that a
understand it?
capable, sorry to interrupt, but how
Yes,
do you know
yes.
that a capable person will stay with you in the long run?
So if I may add to it, what
Yeah.
my personal strategy is, I mean, this is something that I really believe in that all good leaders should be. I am very open to my staff, my teammates, okay, especially at least those who are in touch with me on a daily or non-daily basis as well, even on a weekly basis or something. I will honestly ask them, what are your long-term plans? Okay. And I have had staff who have told me that I do want to like go for a PhD or something. Then I ask them honestly that listen, you are a science graduate right now, and if you are preparing to go for a PhD or something, this is what you need to do. Say you need to appear for this exam, you need to learn about this, you need to do this, and this is literally me giving them tools to leave my organization in some sense. Correct? Because if they prepare for that exam, if they go through that entrance exam and really clear it or something, they leave my organization and go somewhere else. But it is good for them. So they realize that, okay, this person is not holding it against me that I might prepare for something better and they're going to give me tools for advance better. So it also builds the kind of relation with your team so that they are open to you. I have had no staff who had randomly given me a 15-day notice saying that, listen, I'm leaving. You decide what you want to do. I'm just going to go. Luckily for us, this has never happened because even if some person wants to leave, I am constantly talking to them, making my own justifications or my own judgments about what this person's real ideas are, how long are they really planning to stay. And a very shrewd thing to do, but really, I will be honest about it. If you do want to get a good staff with you to stay for long, you have to find out what motivates them. Okay, because if you can't find out what motivates them, they will find out their own motivations and they will find out a place which will fulfill their motivations. And this is something that you can't do in an interview. This is not something that you can do in a 2 month window or something. But yeah, you can do that in a 2 month window if you are in touch with your staff, if you know what their current ideas are. And this is easier done with freshers than with experienced folks. Because if somebody comes with like a 10-year experience already and our experiences become comparable to each other or something, then their agendas, their ideas will be very different. So if you are like a young manager trying to manage team of slightly older folks than you, then a lot of corporate politics, a lot of hidden agendas, a lot of other stuff is gonna kick in. But if you are lucky enough that you get to manage a younger team in some sense, or somebody who is still in an aspiring phase of their career, then you have to play a role of mentor and not just a leader as well. If you're a good mentor to them, they will be honest that listen, I'm probably gonna leave in 6 months. Then you can plan everything accordingly, right? Think of it. If your staff gives you a 6 month notice versus a 15-day notice, how better is it for you and for your whole structure? Because now they are at least open with you that I'm preparing for this exam or I'm trying to look for this career investments that I want to do. So that is what I've been doing at least. I mean,
Right.
we really underappreciate being nice to each other. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chaitanya. I will just stop the recording here for the
Hey,
session. Thank you so much.